I never know when it's actually going live. There, it's live.
We're actually doing it.
So hey, this is Ron and Lisa with the RadiologicTechnologist.com blog and YouTube channel. We've been seeing a lot of the same question lately. I saw it on a Facebook group post yesterday, and I've got it in another subscriber question. If I open that up real quick, I'll just read it to you. It is Alrixian. I don't know. Let's see. No, wait. Is that it? No, it's from Too Famous 13. Is it better to go to private school for radiology technologist or go to community college? And is there a difference if I'm going to the workforce from going through a private school? I'm going to bring this down just a little bit. What do you think? Private versus public?
There's not going to be a difference as far as going into the workforce. No. I mean, we went to private schools. In my opinion, private schools are more expensive. I mean, that's not an opinion. I guess that's just a fact in Arizona anyways. So your private schools are going to be more expensive. The nice thing about the private school I went to was that it was all inclusive, included everything that you needed, all your prereqs, everything. Whereas community colleges typically require all of your English, your math, all of those things to get in. But again, a lot cheaper, but it will take you probably a little bit longer, depending on the school that you go to.
You said private?
Yeah, for private as opposed to public. I think private because they have to go and get, their English and their math and their, their sociology and their, all those prerequisites to get your associate's degree.
Yeah, but I think to clarify, private you can get in right away because
that's what I'm saying.
They build in the prereqs in the course.
Correct. That's
right. So the big difference so I went to Xray school first. I went to Pima Medical Institute. We both went to the same one in Mesa, Arizona. But the local community college had like a 3-year wait. Gateway Community College there had a 3-year wait. It was public and it was only like $6,000. Which is, it's always better to go the cheaper route. But what I noticed on a forum yesterday on Facebook when somebody asked the same question, and there was like 120 plus comments on this person's question. But what 99% of the people kept saying is go public because it's cheaper. And that's pretty much all they would say. And of course, that's obvious. But you've got to think a little bit further in the fact that if you wait 3 years, let's say you're working at McDonald's for, $15 an hour or whatever, for 3 years, you're making $15 an hour waiting to get into the Xray program. Then you're waiting another 2 years to get out of the Xray program. So for 5 years, you're making $15 an hour. If you jump into a private school right away, you're going to graduate that in 2 years and be out making $60,000, $70,000 a year, 3 years faster than if you had waited to get into the public school. So, let's just lowball it. Say you're making $50,000 a year. That's $150,000 over 3 years that you make above and beyond what you would have made at $15 an hour. And you can just start earning quicker that way. And so that's what I did. I jumped into Pima. Pima was $18,000 at the time. I think when you jumped in, it was more like 30 or 28 or something like that.
Yeah, 25 or 26.
So we paid more, but we got in right away and got out a lot quicker and started making money faster. So yeah, it would have been nice to wait around for a gateway, but it would have meant 3 more years, actually 5, because it was 3 to wait to get in and then 2 to go through the program. So,
and then also keep in mind, what is your ending goal? Make sure that your credits are transferable to wherever you want to go next. Make sure they're transferable for you to get a bachelor's. But also remember, there's also schools like ISU that has a program, and I believe you come out with a bachelor's.
Right. So some Xray programs culminate into a bachelor's now. But I was also just commenting on that on another YouTube question. The private schools can, like Pima has a master's program now, and they've had an online bachelor's for a long time. So you can get your associates, most Xray programs, and then an associate's, unless you go those extra classes and get the bachelor's in Xray. But the private schools have a bachelor's and a master's, and I got a master's, but I got a master's from Weber State. But my master's was in radiologic science. So all I had to have to get into that master's program was a license from the ART, which meant I went to a 2-year program, and I had already gotten my bachelor's from somewhere else before I even started Xray school. So I had a bachelor's and I had an Xray license, and that gets you into the master's program at Weber State. And I recommend that one. It was tough, but it was good, and I learned a lot and got my master's. And that master's was enough to get me into a doctorate program. Now I'm in a doctorate of education and healthcare leadership at Nebraska Methodist, which is all online. And I went the private school route. So I just wanted to put that out there because a lot of people in that forum yesterday were saying, just go public. And their two premises that they were basing on was it's cheaper and your credits transfer to other public schools. Well, also, your private schools transfer to other private schools, and you can still reach out into some other schools with it.
And also keep in mind, too, if you work at certain hospitals, more rural, county hospitals, Indian hospitals, probably VAs, I'm not 100% sure, but look into those as well, because a lot of those will be will give you loan forgiveness on your student loans if you had to take out student loans. So, just remember not to forget all of the resources that are out there. Private school is going to be more expensive.
Right.
Public school is going to be cheaper. Private schools usually you can get in quicker because they are more expensive and not as many people are trying to get in. Maybe you apply to both and see which ones you get into, and then you can decide where you want to go. But there's not going to be any difference. When you get into the workforce, no difference at all, especially as long as you have that license. That license, as long as you go to an accredited school, that's going to be the most important, to make sure that your school you're going to is accredited. Mm-hmm. So at the end of the program, you can take the board exam and become licensed to work.
And the only thing I would caution on, because you learn everything you need to know to do the job at your clinical rotation. What you learn in class is what you need to take the test to get licensed. But what you learn at your clinicals is what you actually do in your day-to-day job.
Right.
And what I'll caution you on is if you get into a program that doesn't move you around on your clinical rotations. Because some people, like I met a tech out in Rock Springs, Wyoming, who only got put one place, and it was an outpatient clinic. And I think part of it was even during the COVID thing when not many patients were coming in. So that tech, she's actually struggling to pass her boards because I think they had to do a lot of self-study and a lot of things like that. And you want, like when I rotated through 2 major hospitals. She went through county, which was a level 1 trauma, as well as another hospital in another town. You were at Paradise Valley, Phoenix Baptist. And county down in Maricopa and Phoenix. I did Mesa General and Chandler Regional. So don't get pigeonholed, into some small little obsolete clinic. Make sure you get to rotate around, and most places do that. You just have to be careful, what you get there. And you can ask the schools, where might I get a clinical rotation at if I go into your program? So I don't think enough people know what to ask when they apply. Yeah. I think they're just thinking, I want to be a tech. I got to apply. I got to get in. I got to figure out how to pay for it. And then I got to figure out if I have to work at the same time, how am I going to do that? But there's a lot of other things you can ask to make sure you have a better experience. And I've got a post on my blog that lists, I think, 11 or 13 different ways to pay for school. So I'll try to link to that in the description. But there's scholarships and grants and work study. And I worked at a hospital that had you sign a contract that they would pay for your school if you worked so many years after you graduated. My mom helped me out a little bit. There's a lot of different ways out there that you can pay for Xray school. So anytime somebody says, the things that we hear a lot as a couple in radiology is either I had bills to pay, so I couldn't go to school, but I wanted to, or I had a family to take care of, so I couldn't go to Xray school, or I didn't have a way to pay for it, so I didn't go to Xray school, but I wanted to. Well, we had all those issues. We have 6 daughters. We didn't have all 6 at the time, but she was actually pregnant going through her clinical rotation.
With number 6.
So, we're we're not real big on excuses. If it's what you want, figure it out and get it done. And that's part of why we're doing these videos, is we're trying to help people figure out all these parts that maybe nobody else is sharing. There's not a lot of people sharing this kind of stuff on YouTube or on the internet. So I've got over 100 articles on my blog that tell you all the different aspects of the school, what clinical rotations are like in different locations. I mean, pretty much you name it, it's out there. And then this YouTube channel is to answer questions. So if this has been helpful, make sure you hit the like button and subscribe so you know when we put more answers out there. And if you have any questions, leave them in the comments section and we'll be happy to answer them. Anything else?
No.
Okay. All right. Thanks for watching.